Hello, it is me again, FredRex2007 here. Welcome back to another video on my channel, and today's video is going to be another Godzilla video. Surprising, isn't it? It's been a long while since I did a Godzilla video. Been like almost 2 years. That's very surprising, and I felt ashamed about it. To those who do not know, that I'm a huge Godzilla fan, and you should probably know it, or to those who are new to this channel, welcome to this channel. I'm a huge Godzilla fan. If you're interested in any of that stuff, you should make sure to subscribe and click the notification bell whenever video of mine pops out, if I ever get the time to do any of them. So anyways, as a kid, I've always loved Godzilla. 4-year-old me always fell in love with that giant beast, and I'm pretty sure that all of you guys know about him too. He's always been there for us, like one of the biggest world icons ever. And the reason why I'm doing this video is because it's a special video, because we're going to have a new Godzilla vs. Kong film coming out next Wednesday. And that's going to be epic! So in this video, I'm going to be putting out today's video. It's a video I've always wanted to do for a while, so today's video is going to be my top 10 all-time favorite Godzilla movies. Yes, I can finally get to tell you guys what is my top 10 favorite Godzilla films, and the top 10 favorite Godzilla movies I've always loved so much. But in this video, I will tell you about it. And it's a bit of a struggle because there's so many Godzilla films out there. Well, there's some good ones, really bad ones, like some least favorites, and some movies and some of the Godzilla films I have a love-hate relationship with. But today, I'm putting out my top 10 most favorite of all time. So, let's get on with it. So number 10 on this list, we have Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2 in the Heisei era. And I can tell you this movie is actually really good. I really enjoyed it. I've always wanted to watch it as a kid. Like, it's one of those Godzilla films I missed out seeing back then. But years later in 2019, when I got to see the movie, when I finally owned it on DVD, it was actually a pretty fun film. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great idea to bring back Mechagodzilla in the second era and making Rodan into a fire Rodan, a fiery, powerful version of himself, into a giant pteranodon, but breathing fire. And having Godzilla having a son, and the baby Godzilla design looks a whole lot better than the Mania design in the Showa era. Like, ugh, hideous. And he looks really adorable looking, and he actually looks like a little dinosaur, which is always a win. And the Mechagodzilla design looks a whole lot cooler when he's a friendly version. Like the Mechagodzilla design, he does have a dopey expression on his face, and having the weird big metal design into it, and even make him as a good guy. Even though I'm very used to him being a good guy, and I like that, but never grew up with him being evil, because the Mechagodzilla I grew up with is being the good guy. And that will be told later on. And the Godzilla is pretty cool, the way he's acting like the force of nature. He's literally not good or evil, he's just in between. He just doesn't care if he's good or bad. He just comes out of nowhere and destroying everything like he's a force of nature, like he truly really is. So yeah, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2 on number 10. And on number 9 on my list is another Heisei film, another Heisei favorite. It is Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. Another film I've always wanted to watch as a kid, but I never got to see it. So the movie is literally about people that came from the future warning about the people what's going to happen in the future of what Godzilla's going to do to them. So they warned them to go back in time during World War II to destroy the Godzillasaurus. Like way before Godzilla was radioactive and stronger, he was a dinosaur at first. Like he's one of those surviving prehistoric creatures that's in the South Pacific. So they have to kill him in order that they can live in peace in Japan. And the thing is, look like they're trying to copy off Back to the Future, because this movie came out after Back to the Future was released. You know, Back to the Future was 1985, and this movie was 1991. So that's a bit of a problem. But either way, the climax and the ending of the movie, with Godzilla fighting Mecha King Ghidorah, one of the best scenes in the movie, hands down. So, great movie. Really fun to watch. And number 8 on my list, it is Terror of Mechagodzilla, 1975. The reason why I like this movie very much is because of the idea of having the characters being darker and more violent, because this movie was made to be darker and violent, and it was supposed to be a nudity scene, but they kicked that out into the 2002 DVD, so that's the DVD I grew up with. And having a new monster called a Titanosaurus. He's a pretty cool looking kaiju. And even Mechagodzilla coming back with a much smarter brain is being controlled by a cyborg woman Katsura. So yeah, this movie is actually really good. There's nothing to say about this one, even though it's actually one of the lowest box office Godzilla films ever put out. But either way, it's actually a really good movie. And even when the space apes are wearing helmets and they're not into their ape forms anymore, but still, the movie was great. The movie was still great overall. And on number 7 on my list, I'm probably going to get some hate about this, but I'm one of those fans. It is Legendary's Godzilla 2014 by directed by Gareth Edwards. The reason why I love this movie is because my 12-year-old self we're just happy to see Godzilla coming back in action, even in America. And this movie just hit right out of the park. You know, Gareth Edwards is just trying to put his best to put in a realistic point of view, and boy, did he do a great job about that. But even though that people are criticizing him about cutting away the monster fights, like whenever Godzilla shows up, it just cuts away the fights. And that is a shame. But even though that Gareth Edwards is just trying his best to put out a good Godzilla film in a realistic, lower ground perspective, he did a great job about that. Even though he put out a few characters that are non-interesting and realistic. Well, non-interesting, but I'm interested with the characters. Like, I really cared about the characters. Ford Brody, Joe Brody, and even, like, Inishio Zarazawa and his partner. Like, they're such great characters. Like, come on, guys. And even when the Mutos are becoming the Godzilla parasites and they become giant creatures, like they used to be parasites infecting inside of Godzillas and kills them, and they come out of them to become kaijus. I find that a really cool idea. I've always loved the Mutos as a kid. And even when Godzilla shows up and does the epic roar and everything, 12-year-old me was just impressed. Even whenever Godzilla appears on screen, he is incredible. It is such a great way if a Godzilla would show up like that in reality. Like, that is just incredible. And even when it feels like you're with the character's point of view. It feels like you're with them, seeing all the chaos happening everywhere. And that is the thing I love about this movie. I am such a fanboy with this film. And yes, it would have been a lot better if Guillermo del Toro was the one that was chosen to direct the film, but no, he was busy with the other horror film like Mama or Crimson Peak, but they had to choose Gareth Edwards because they see him as a talented director because he directed Monsters, so they chose him to direct the Godzilla 2014 film. And no complaints about it, okay? Like, he is one of those talented modern directors. But even though he kind of screwed up with Rogue One and Star Wars Story. Anyways, on to the next one. Number 6, we have Mothra vs. Godzilla, 1964 from the Showa era. I'm gonna have to tell you this. This movie is amazing. It always amazed me, like my 7-8-year-old self. Every time I watched this, I was blown away. Like, the way how the movie was beautifully shotted, and even when the Godzilla and Mothra are just fighting, even when Godzilla's becoming like the destroyer, the villain, he just comes to life and starts destroying everything. But even though he did an accident when he tripped over on the pagoda in one scene, which is I thought it was hilarious. And even when the Mothra twin babies hatch out of the egg, it's just beautiful, just pitch perfect. And even when the actresses plays as the twin fairies, it is amazing. They did fantastic, and even the way they sing and talk, and even the human characters were great. They were fantastic as well. Even though people are literally bothered by the Godzilla design, by his mouth and everything, but whatever, I forgive them though. And on the top 5, we have on number 5, it is another Heisei film, which is my all-time favorite Heisei film. We have Godzilla vs. Biollante. This movie's fantastic. It is arguably, hands down, one of the best Godzilla films ever made. And I am damn serious. Because it is such a great way how they put into a realistic dark tone. And even when it's actually a fan request, when Toho's like, okay, any of you fans got an idea? And they're like, one of them's like, I got an idea. Well, how about Godzilla fights a giant evil plant? And that's a great idea. And I love the idea how a scientist was trying to bring his dead daughter back to life with Godzilla cells and plant cells, but she ends up turning into a giant Biollante. And that is terrifying and awesome, sweet at the same time. Even though it didn't have any good fights in the movie, like the final fight only had like 3 minutes of screen time, but the whole film of the premise and the storyline just kept you interested, and it is fantastic. I loved it. Great film. One of the best, easily so far. And number 4 on the list, we have the original Gojira, directed by Ishiro Honda. And this movie is a freaking masterpiece. Like, there's no way you can complain about that. There's nothing bad about this movie, even though when we were kids, when we first watched this movie, including the American film with Steve Martin, well, played by Raymond Byrne, there were no kaiju fights. Because it's just a big thing that we want to expect in Godzilla film these days. Giant monster fights. Because we're entertained by that stuff. But this movie has a really dark tone, atmosphere, very eerie, very dark, and it was supposed to be a horror film at first, but it's gone too far. Yeah, great film. We already talked about it that much, so on to the next one. Number 3, of course, it is Godzilla x Mechagodzilla. Great film. I've always loved the Godzilla design. He has a really good wolf tone design on the Godzilla, and even when Kiryu goes mad, destroying Japan, and even when he's built over to the original Bones of Gojira, just mind-blowing. I love it. Such a great way to put it in the series, in the Millennium Era, even though it's another reboot. Not much about it, okay? It's another great, fun Godzilla film to watch that's worth your time. Number 2, of course, it is Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All-Out Attack. Believe it or not, my very first Godzilla film ever, and it is beautiful, fantastic, incredible, and dark, trying to bring it back to the original perspective with the original Gojira, and is by far, arguably, the best in the Millennium Era. Great film. We already know about it very much because we have a lot of lovers out there with Godzilla, well actually GMK, so it is amazing. Alright, and number 1 on my list of my top 5 Godzilla film, well top 10, it is Godzilla Tokyo SOS. The reason why I love the film so much, the movie is top notch with all the promising of all the fighting, action, and destruction of Godzilla fighting Mothra and Mechagodzilla and the twin babies. That is the one Godzilla film I wished for, and it did grant it very well, but it has a little lacking of storyline about the bones and Mothra wanting to have a war against with the humanity, but it's despite those nitpicks, even when the fights in the ending of the movie comes along, it's just worth the time. It's just another Godzilla film with fun destruction and fighting. Same old stuff, it's just another Godzilla film that leaves you satisfied. And that is my top 10 all-time favorite Godzilla movies. If you guys enjoy this top 10, you should leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And you should tell me what is your top 10 favorite Godzilla movies of all time. I would really like to know, so let me know. Anyway guys, I'll see you guys in the next video, and I will do that Godzilla vs. Kong review. I promise that. And do the ranking of the MonsterVerse films. So, that'll be another time. So have a great one, and take care.